conversation that y'all are having. This is a legalities issue, and since the government or these states decide that it's legal, now guess what? That puts everybody else in a bind, right? So if you run a sports franchise, if you run a sports league, and someone has paperwork saying that, hey, I'm legal as a woman, guess what? If you don't allow them in, they can sue you and they're gonna win the lawsuit because the government said it's okay. So as men and as women, as kings and queens, it's time for us to stand up to our government and say, hey, we do not like the way you guys are pushing the limits and pushing the agenda to what we consider morally right. We got to take that power back, cuzzo, and I'm gonna land my plane right there.
Thank you. That was awesome. Otis, what's your thoughts on this craziness?
What's going on, man? I thought I was done with you for the day.
Me too.
For real. But this topic, man, is crazy. This is not nothing new, obviously. It's been burning my gut for the last several months. Like the gentleman just said, it's more complicated than it really is. You do have to vote and all that. But to me, I like to simplify things. I keep it real simple. To me, it's an issue at the home, for as if that was my child, she played on the basketball team or whatever, and a transgender was on the team. And let me say this right now, I have nothing against transgender. I could care less, but let's keep it real. Fair is fair. If you're on the team with my daughter is not playing that game. And all parents need to come together and protest that game. To me, that's democracy, democracy at its best. That's how you do things, along with voting and things like that. But let's keep it real. I like to put blame where it is. It's the parents' fault. You should be more involved with the PTA. You should be more involved with who's on that team. You should know what's going on. Now, of course, you don't know everything, but when you showed up that game that night, if you follow your child and you support their team and you knew that it was a transgender on that team, you're supposed to get your child from that bench and left. That's what I would have done.
Damn. So now what if your child is on the team of the T player, of the T basketball player? Are you gonna quit?
Well, now,
because now your team got the advantage. Your team got the advantage. They're gonna win that championship.
Okay. Yeah, but I'll say this straight to go either way. If you're a parent or a student of that team or that person on that team, you already, quote unquote, I hate to say it like this, to me, you already chose your side. Because you know, just this time, you just happen to be on the winning side, per se. But what if it was on the other side? What are you going to do then? So in my mind, you know what you're doing. You're just accepting it now because you're on the quote-unquote winning team. You're benefited from it now. But it won't be that way all the time. Right is right, wrong is wrong.
Yeah, especially since with this story that recently just broke on Fox News and everything, that the cisgendered male that is now transitioned, he actually injured 3 of the young ladies on the basketball court. By him just by being himself, like he wasn't attempting to hurt them. It's like what Jabba said not too long ago. Just by him playing volleyball with them and the power that he can hit the ball, it changes the intensity of the sport and of the game. And these girls is not accustomed to that speed yet. It's even Venus, she said, greatest female tennis player of all time, but I'm not going to compete against those men. The speed of the ball, the way high it comes, is much faster.
Right. Now, I'm sorry. What the young man stated, the one that was on screen, what he said about if you just identify, that probably is true. I need to do my research on that. I definitely want to research that. But even if that is true, just the idiocy of that thought process. So if I say or identify as whatever, or Caucasian, whoever, then that's who that's how I identify. They can't negate that. Well, now, in theory, they really can't, because you can choose what you want on the application. But
Otis,
what's up? Talk to me.
We gotta understand. See, we gotta learn as a society to start standing up and complaining when they're first trying to introduce just this little change. Oh, okay, we just want to change this little bit and make it legal, because once things become legal, Otis, we can rant and rave, we can protest and do whatever. But at that point, it's too late. So guess what? You protest the game, guess what they're going to do? They're going to cancel the game. Because guess what? They're bound by the legalities of the situation. See, that's the danger in all this, Otis. That's the danger in all this, Sharon. That's why I say it's up to us to stand up, right? And fight for our morals, principles, and values within our culture, right? We cannot allow the government and the few people who are empowering the government to push the agenda on these controversial issues and making them legal. Because guess what? You're going to have incidents like this, and this ain't going to be the last one. I'm telling you, right? You're going to have more and more. Because, Otis, you talked about it's the parents' fault, and I totally agree. But if you got a parent that's allowing their 6-year-old or 8-year-old to enter the process of transforming themselves into a different gender, then how can you rely on that parent to uphold anything else?
Well, shit, cause in LA they passed a law where you don't even need your parents' approval.
And that is
Over
crazy.
in Los Angeles, you don't need your parents' approval. I think down to the age of 12. So under
And
12,
you
you need your parents' approval. 12 and up, no approval needed whatsoever. You could go tell your doctor, I don't want my parents to know. And the doctor, you know, because you know they sign that confidentiality thing, they can't talk at all.
Sure.
And you see, and the
that's
craziness
an agenda in itself. That's
and
an
the
agenda in
craziness.
itself. 12 years old, you're not fundamentally sound to making a decision like that. That's an agenda in
There
itself.
you go. And you
That
know
is
how
ridiculous.
crazy, you know how crazy our country is, Otis and Sharon, that we have more parameters in place for people to get a driver's license, right? We have an age requirement. We have study requirement. We have test requirements. We have more rules and regulations in place for smaller issue things, right? But you're going to allow a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, 14-year-old to be responsible to make a decision that could transform their life forever. And we know through scientific proof that the brain isn't fully developed until about 25 years old. So we gotta come back to basic principles. Like I said, we're
that's
we're
why
running
I also
out of
want to
time to get
welcome.
it together.
Also want to welcome a new panelist. Hey, how you doing, Jay? Good day. Good to see you. What's your thoughts?
I'm not new. Don't do that.
I haven't seen you since, I don't know, since last year.
Yeah. So I had a quick question for you, Sharon.
Okay.
Was that California bill regarding sex change surgeries, or was it regarding affirming the kid's gender?
I believe I didn't pull it up, but I believe it was about changing over.
Okay. I think it's more so about the parents affirming their gender, the way they want to be
Identified as?
Yeah. Or they lose custody. It's that's just a synopsis, not detailed. But I think that's what that meant.
Because Jabba, he came up and said, like, in sports, all you gotta do is identify as said sex, and that's all you need to be in the sport. So I guess that bill would make more sense since it's already kind of a staple that you gotta just identify as something, and then you have to be accepted once you are, say, I believe I'm a white female, I'm a Caucasian white female from the Caucasus Mountain. That's it. That's what I am now. You cannot say that I'm a black man from Brooklyn, New York anymore.
Yeah, and I think if you're younger than 18, you have to get consent from your parents to get those surgeries.
That is crazy. Now, I
just the fact that you could go in the house and now, you know, me and Otis don't have no say so on what my child wants to identify as, and then not only that, once he tells the doctor that I'm not respecting this identity change.
Oh, I have a say so.
I'm at fault for it now.
Yeah, I get your point. Trust me, I get your point, but I have a say so. But I get your point. The average person don't, but I do. I'm not going down that road. I gotta say so. I protected myself, but you are 100% correct. You are correct. I don't want this to come across, even though I'm hoping it's not. Of course, I'm assuming it's not, that we're bashing or we're discrediting the transgender community, because we're not. I have no issue, none whatsoever. But to me, fair is fair. To me, it's not a joke to have your own league, to do what you want to do. I would really go watch it and support it. I really would. But to me, it's just awkward. I'm sorry. I don't care what you feel or you think you are. If you are not born with that between your legs, I'm sorry, you are not that. Now, there are exceptions to the rule. I'll be the first to say this. Now, this might blow some people away. Then I got to go. The wife waiting on me. But this is the truth. I do believe that some individuals, when they are born, or for lack of a better phrase, sexually confused. That's where the situations, the Hermaphrodites, I'm hoping I'm pronouncing it right, where you are born with both sex organs. That's not the child's fault. That's something that came out where the X and the Y chromosome just didn't do what it was supposed to do. So in that situation, because I'm speaking this because I know someone personally that's close to me that's going through this with their child. So I understand and I can relate to those that are truly within that gray area. And then you have to choose what sex you want to become. And then they go through the surgery with counseling and things like that. But what's great about that, they were over the age of 18 once they made their final decision on what gender they wanted to choose. So even though I don't have a dog in that fight, I don't have an issue with that. But I do understand and recognize the differences, that there are exceptions to the rule. It's not a blanket statement. But again, a man who so-called identifies as a woman and takes hormone pills and then wants to go play basketball or whatever with my daughter, you out of order. And it's going to be a problem. That's where I'm coming from.
And Otis, and I know, right? When we tackle these controversial topics, people's feelings and emotions are going to come into play and they're going to feel attacked. And I just want to say that I'm not attacking anybody's lifestyle or anybody's thoughts and opinions. You can disagree with me or agree with me, and that's fine. I believe everyone should have a choice to live their life however they choose to live it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But when things become legal, right, that changes things, right? And that's why we're having this conversation today, because these sports leagues and these schools, once it becomes legal, they got to accept it in and they got to incorporate it in, right? They don't have a choice, right? So it's not like anybody's given a choice here, right? We know it's wrong for a boy, an 8-year-old boy, to be playing with 8-year-old girls, and we know he has a competitive advantage, and it's wrong, right, in that regard. But because they made it legal, there's nothing we can do, right, but tackle the controversial topic. So my whole thing is this, right? I believe that everyone has a right to their lifestyle, but everyone doesn't have the right to have extra rights and privileges that wasn't afforded at birth. Right. And that's my position on this.
I agree with, listen, you said nothing wrong. I agree with everything you said. Again, you have the right to live the way you want to live. I just have an issue with it when it approaches or encroaches my lifestyle. That's it. I don't care what you do. I promise I don't. I shake your hand. We could eat together. We could smoke together because I smoke. I'm good. I don't care. Just don't infringe your perceived rights on me. Don't say I need to call you this when, no disrespect, I don't know what you are, because I'm kind of confused now because I don't know what you're trying to go for. So I don't know. Don't get mad at me if I can't make that decision or I can't decipher. I'm sorry. I can't right now. Unless you have a sign on. I'm just being real. I'm not trying to crack jokes, but that's the reality of the situation.
Go ahead, Jay.
So play devil's advocate, because we've talked about this before, Sharon, and I just think it's a very logical answer to this. If somebody is telling you they want to be identified as something, just identify them as what they want to be identified as. It alleviates so many issues.
But what if they're forcing upon you? Like, for example, I'm not trying to be funny. What about situations like this? Because this happens. It happened to me. I'm in a store. Mm-hmm. The person who's checking me out, I promise you, no disrespect, I don't know what to say. Good morning, sir or ma'am. So I think I made a mistake and I said, sir. And she now I know now got so offended, tried to belittle me. And I honestly didn't know what gender you were. I was being nice to even speaking. You look like a man. So I said, sir, but you were in your mind a female. So in that situation, how do I combat that? Because I'm not talking about the ones that say, if you don't mind, can you call me or identify me as a woman, even though I'm a male? Oh, no problem. Thanks for letting me know. I have no issue with that. That's fine. But if I make the logical mistake based on your appearance, but I chose wrong, and then you want to cut my neck off, that's where the issue come in. That's where you're perceiving and pushing your rights on me, because I clearly didn't know.
So, just like for me, Jalen, for now on, Jalen, you gotta call me a white Caucasian female. For now on, that's what I'm gonna.
Hey, I mean, that's what Rachel Dolezal did it. So you know,
and Jalen, I would like to answer. I would like to answer the question as well, because it is a great question, and she is right. Everyone has the right to, like, you know, identify themselves however they want to identify themselves, right? But I don't believe just because you identify yourself with something or someone, that doesn't mean you deserve the privileges, all the privileges that comes with that identification, right? Like, for instance, so
that's up to the government.
Let me give you an example. I know, but I'm just talking about my opinion, because that's all we can do on these panels is give our opinion, right? So my 13-year-old daughter, for instance, right? And you have a 13-year-old son who has decided that now he's a 13-year-old girl, right? And instead of using the boys' bathroom, he wants to use the girls' bathroom, right? So does he deserve that privilege to be able to encroach upon somebody else's comfortability and privacy in that regard? That's the question I will pose to you, Jalen.
Repeat that question for me.
Okay. So I have a 13-year-old daughter, Jalen. Okay. And let's say you have a 13-year-old son, right? Yeah. And your 13-year-old son has decided that he no longer wants to identify as a boy. He wants to identify as a girl, and therefore he wants to use the girl's bathroom, right? Does he have the right to have that privilege to use the girl's bathroom and therefore violate the privacy and privilege of my own daughter, who might not be comfortable with that situation?
I think that if you are presenting yourself as a woman, or whatever gender you're trying to transition to, if you're presenting yourself as such, then yeah, you should be able to use that bathroom, whatever you identify as.
But Jalen, see, now here's the problem with that, right? Because who's governing that, right? Because you're just going off of somebody's word, and they're coming to you saying, yes, I identify as this, so I want to use this, right? But then there's no, if nobody's governing that and managing that, then we're also, what we're doing, we're putting people in harm's way, right? And also we're forcing someone else's comfortability to be placed upon somebody else to be uncomfortable. So that's the, you know, that is the dangerous and controversial issue that we gotta balance. We gotta find balance with that, right?
Because so I don't think the government can govern, or there's no way to govern over bathroom use. I think people just go to use the bathroom or the restroom, and that's it. I don't think anybody's sitting there trying to plot. I think there are rare occasions where people go in there trying to plot, but they usually get caught. So at the end of the day, if they're identifying as a woman and they want to go use the woman's restroom, we all minding our business in the restroom to use the restroom. So it's not that deep for me. I've seen trans women come into the restroom. It doesn't bother me, because they're there to use the restroom. They're not harming anybody.
Go ahead, Easy Money Jones. What are your thoughts? You said you had some experience on this, hiring, firing them, giving them hugs, sharing a drink with them, slapping hands. Let me know what are your thoughts, because that one I gotta let that sit. So
please, Easy, please be on my side.
I gotta let what Jalen just said I gotta relax myself so I don't react in emotion. I gotta be calm. I'm gonna calm me and Chucky out. We gotta calm down before we talk about the bathroom usage with our baby girls. Go ahead, Easy Money Jones.
All right, so just really quick here, and Jalen, a pleasure. Long time since we've been on the panel together. Hope you're doing well. And Sharon, thank you for having me up. Brownsville was good, and I don't know who else is up here because I can't see anything else. So just real quick on the whole trans thing. So I get the fervor and the energy around it, where it's like, oh my God, they're trying to put boys in these girls' sports, and they're going to show up in bathrooms, and oh my God, I cannot believe this is happening. What happened to the country I love, right? And it's very easy for us in our, heteronormative, living to be jolted by this. But as you start to do the math, and as you start to live in a world that is more accommodating to everyone, eventually you'll come across people who identify as trans, people who are transitioning or have transitioned, and it becomes less of a thing the more time that you're able to kind of spend around it. So what I mentioned earlier in the chat is I hired an individual that identified as trans. The person they were born a man and they were transitioning to be a woman. And other way around. They were a woman transitioning to be a man. And so, they had a birth name, but they had a name that they wanted to go by. And we said, hey, what name do you want to be called? We called them by that name. We called them by that pronoun and moved it ahead. The only place where we potentially got pinched was they wanted a gender neutral bathroom. And it's like, no, we're not doing that. Like, we're not made of money. Like, we're not the monopoly people, you know what I'm saying? So, but other than that, they came to work like everybody else. They did the job like everybody else until the point we had to fire them for attendance. And that's what we did.
Hey,
so,
Easy Money, I got a question for you, brother. I didn't mean to cut you off. I'm sorry if I did.
No, you good.
You mentioned a term that I'm not aware of. You said heteronormative. What does that mean?
Cisgendered heteronormative. So that essentially means that you are a man, you identify as a man, and you like women specifically. And it's usually cisgendered women. So you like women that only like women. And on the other side of that, cisgendered heteronormative, essentially you fit what society calls normal, basically.
But Easy Money. Now, that begs another question, right? Does society deem it normal, or does nature, like, when do we get into like nature versus thought?
Well, nature in what way, Brownsville? What do you mean by nature?
What I mean by nature is this, right? Everything has been created by either God or an entity, right? And there's sexes with all the animals and insects and fish and all of those things, right? And in nature, right, we see it with dogs, we see it with cats, we see it with lions, we see it with tigers, right? What is natural for them to do, they do.
That's because they don't have free will. They don't have a conscious like we do.
Exactly. So that's my question, because here's the thing. When you're born, right, as a human, right, you also, because your free will that you have is learned behavior that comes with that, right? When you're born, you're not born into knowing anything about sex. Do you agree with me there?
So when you say sex, sex is primarily an expression of your chromosome, so XX or XY.
Yeah,
so right.
So I mean that's hardwired.
When you're born, you don't know anything.
Sexuality?
About
is that what you mean?
Sexuality,
okay,
or anything like that. right? When
Yeah,
you're
sexuality, gender,
born,
no. You don't know those things. Correct.
that's considered.
Uh-oh.
Did he drop?
Yeah, it seemed like he because he's most likely driving, so he
Am
seemed
I
like he
back?
lost. There you go, you
Now
back.
you're back.
Okay. So my question is, if that is considered learned behavior, when do we go to, okay, what is natural versus learned behavior, and how do we navigate that? That is the question I have in my mind.
So let me ask you this, Brownsville. How do you know that there isn't a dolphin in the Atlantic Ocean who was born male but identifies as a woman? How do you know that that doesn't exist?
Well, because I've never seen it or heard of it. The only thing I've seen and heard is male dolphins mate with female dolphins and produce baby dolphins. The only thing I've ever heard was male dogs mate with female dogs and produce puppies. The only thing I've ever heard was male tigers uh, reproduce with female tigers and they produce cubs, right? That's nature. So that's what I'm familiar with. I'm familiar with nature. I know how the laws of nature work, but I don't know and understand the ramifications of giving into everything determined by free will, right? Because that's the word that we're using. We're using free will, right? Which has no limitations or no boundaries, right? And that is the danger with it. You know what I'm saying? Because like Sharon said, somebody can wake up tomorrow and say, you know what, I'm this. And their free will is telling them they're that. And we just gotta accept it because there's no limits or boundaries. That
Because
is the problem.
you don't have any control over what that person can do with their life. And I think people just need to come to grips with that and give that person grace because they're going through life just like you. It's just not the same pathway as you. I may
Oh,
not
oh,
agree with their lifestyle, but I'm going to give them grace to figure out life because life is fucking hard. Nobody has a rule book on life. God didn't even give us a rule book on life, He gave us rules to follow. So,
Right. And
but
Jalen, when you
everybody
mention
doesn't
grace,
believe in the same God. Some people don't even believe in God. So, even in that, you have to give grace because
right,
they're
but
going through
grace
their own life.
grace is different
About to
though.
be a situation.
Grace means understanding and acceptance. To me, that's what I mean by give grace.
I got you. Shout out to misalignment. I have to realize all information isn't good information, and all topics of discussion I can be excluded from. I'm out. Shout out to you with the 5 ball. I appreciate you, Mr. Alignment. Thank you. And the super chat button is right there on the other side. So thank you. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Go
And
ahead.
so
Sharon,
really quick.
these are
So
really
really
these are
quick.
really tough. These are tough.
Because Easy Money Jones don't got that much time. Go ahead, Easy
Go
Yeah.
ahead,
Money
easy money.
Jones.
Go ahead, easy money.
Yeah. So Brownsville, I wanted to respond really quick to the nature to the nature argument that you were going toward. So there's been enough studying of animals to know that there are gay dogs, there's gay dolphins, there's gay lions, there's gay tigers. There, and there by nature there are members of those species that never reproduce. So the phenomenon that we see among humans, to where we have gay, we have trans, we have lesbian, we have all these pan, whatever. We got all these classifications. We're also seeing that in nature as well. So to say that what's happening within, the gender identification, to say what's happening within sexuality is not natural, actually goes against what we're finding in nature. So that's why I think we've got to I understand that it is different from what we're told is normal and what society pushes as normal. Completely understand that. I grew up believing I was going to, just storm the castle and marry the princess. I'm with you.
But
But
easy money. If
yeah,
that's the case, which I don't, I mean, I need to see those studies and see how much case studies have been done to confirm that hypothesis, because I don't believe that there's uniformity in what you're saying. But
mhm.
even if I concede that there was uniformity, that we're seeing those developments in nature in other animals and species, then that would kind of be controversial to Jalen's point of it's a free will argument.
Well, and to that point, the free will comes in where you're taking steps once you've identified what you are. So to Jalen's point, if there is a person who is born a man but decides, hey, I'm really a woman, if they decide to do the hormone therapy or they decide to play dress up or they decide to do nothing at all because they're afraid of the ramifications of changing their outer appearance based on societal norms, like at that point, that's where the choice comes in. Like I am very much of the, so I understand that there are people who choose to either modify their gender or change their sexuality based on traumatic experiences or what have you. But for the most part, I highly doubt that people who are gay or lesbian or bi or pan or trans or whatever, I don't think that that is something that people are overwhelmingly actively choosing. Because if you think about it, why would a man who has the dominant position in society choose to compromise his position by essentially effeminizing himself within the eyes of society by being with another man? Like, why would a man choose to do that?
Well, I got an answer for that, and you may disagree, and a lot of people may disagree. A lot of people may agree, but this is just my opinion. That's because of the word that we call sin, right? What? Why do we commit sins, right? Why do we go up against our best, make choices to go up against our best interest in life in general, right? Why are we pushing the envelope on things? You know what I'm saying? What are those urges that make us want to, act not out of the best interest of ourselves? This is something that we do in our life, right? And this is why we have to lean towards discipline, right? Because discipline is what helps us stay morally grounded into the point that we want to be, right? But what happens is when you take away that discipline and you just allow yourself to feel every urge that you have, that's when you go into the sin route and you can act against the best interest of yourself. And that's the thing. There's reasons why we have laws, right? Because if that's the case, right, then there will be no need for us to follow laws or rules or regulations or anything. The reason why we have laws is because the government realized that if we didn't have laws, we would have chaos. We wouldn't have any uniformity in how we're supposed to conduct ourselves morally, right? That is important.
And I also want to get Jay in there. Go ahead, Jay. I know you want to jump in. Go ahead.
So I think, this is just my opinion, telling somebody that the way that they're living their life is wrong and that they should be different from what they believe they are is infringing on their rights as well. Just because you don't believe being gay is correct or morally correct does not mean you are the person to determine what is morally correct and incorrect. Just because you believe in Christianity and God tells you that homosexuality is wrong does not mean a person who does not follow that religion whatsoever, you can tell them that they are morally wrong because they're not held to the same standard as you. They don't even believe in what you believe in. So do you not see like the hypocrisy in that?
So this is only pertaining.
Well, Jalen, that's a great question.
Hold on, I want to make sure I'm understanding Jalen. So Jalen, you saying this is only pertaining to people that is pursuing people romantically? Is where you going with it, right?
No, I'm saying I'm speaking in general. There's no like niche I'm talking about. I'm talking about everyone. Just because you don't think being gay is right for you or in your bubble does not mean you are the person that should be the one saying what is morally correct and incorrect for everyone.
Exactly. And that's and I have a great answer to that, Jalen. That was a great point, right? Here's the thing, right? None of us have uniformity in terms of morals, values, and ethics. That's why it's important for us to have a compass that will lead us all into that direction, right? Because if you leave it up to me, I'm gonna have my beliefs. If we leave it up to you, you're gonna have your beliefs, right? But it's important that we have a set of standards, right? Because basically what I'm hearing from you is people should be able to do whatever they want to do, irregardless to any standards or codes or values. And
We
if
live
we
in a
go down
melting
that
pot.
route,
This
if we go
country is a
down, but
melting pot
Jalen,
of different people. So
right?
how can we develop uniformity when we're all different?
Because
That's not
uniformity,
possible.
but Jalen, the reason why, and I understand what you're saying, but the reason why uniformity is important and standards are important is because without them, we're going to destroy ourselves from within. We're gonna go right back down the path of destruction. As soon as you remove all standards, all moral codes, all values, then we become a uncivilized society.
America has been uncivilized since its creation. Even the creators of America were uncivilized. They came from Europe, where they were uncivilized in Europe.
But we
So I don't
civilized
know.
now.
Can I bring?
Yes, go ahead,
Sharon.
Otis.
Let me
Jump in
bring this
there,
back
Otis.
home a little bit. Let me jump in this. Okay, let's bring it back home real quick because I want to address what the young lady said. And please don't take this the wrong way. I'm not attacking you at all. Please don't. So with that being said, based on what you're saying, I want to go back to what you originally said about when the young man brought up the example if an 8-year-old male and the 8-year-old female, and the 8-year-old male wanted to be identified as a female, you don't see a problem with the male 8-year-old utilizing the same restroom as your daughter, going in at the same time and all that, and you have no concern with that. Now, my issue with that is, even though I agree with you to a certain point, it's a melting pot and all that. But where's the standard? Where's the standard of living or common decency to allow an 8-year-old boy who doesn't have the mental capacity to know what he wants? He probably wants to be a female because all he sees is dolls laying inside the playroom. So he's just playing with dolls. There's no truck in sight. If there was a truck in sight, maybe you want to be a truck driver. But I digress. The point is, but hold on, let me just say this.
Yeah, go
With
ahead.
that being said, where's the line? Where's the line? What about the parents who feel like you bringing an 8-year-old in the restroom of a 8-year-old female, but in your mind there is no issue because your child, you wants to have the carefree thought process. You could be whatever you want to be. Go on into the male's the restroom. At some point there has to be some type of standard. An 8-year-old is not the standard to me. I agree with what you're saying, but 8-year-old is not the standard. To me, that's dramatizing your daughter because your daughter, in her mind, she's a female. Now she has a friend, a male, that thinks he's a female. So how are you going to explain that to your 8-year-old daughter?
So I think I still feel like these identities are still a rarity in America. Let's go under that assumption. Second of all, I think it's way more likely for my child to be harmed in the bathroom by other girls than a little boy being brought into the restroom just to go use the restroom.
You're changing the dynamic. Don't change the semantics.
Oh, no, I'm not changing the dynamic. It makes perfect sense what I'm saying. It's just you don't agree. And that's great. That's fine.
No.
You don't agree. It's okay. Okay. Second of all, I don't think my mindset is coming from a carefree place. I think it's coming from a logical place that it's fair for everyone and not just a specific type of person. Like the heteronormative, quote unquote, type of people, for them to just be comfortable. I think there are other people in this world that exist that also deserve the right to be comfortable. They're not harming anybody. They're not breaking a law. They just want to be able to live their life just as normally as you would. I see nothing wrong with that.
Yes,
I agree with your premise.
Jay, the only problem is that they gotta use the normal bathroom. They want to live a normal life. Use the normal bathroom. That's all.
You thinking you normal. Everything you said was accurate and beautiful. A whole big kumbaya moment until you said that last statement to me. Everything you said was right until you feel, not your example, 8-year-old boy could go into an 8-year-old female's restroom. That's where we do, that's where we go our separate ways.
I don't even care about
Everything prior
that.
to that.
To be
Yeah, go
honest,
ahead.
the 8-year-old thing, I don't really care about what bathroom they using at 8. I don't really care about that. It's more when we get into the grown aspect. When we get 16 and up, that's when I start to
Okay.
have a problem with it, because now it's a real distinction.
Well,
These
let's
are
go with the
people that
16-year-old. Yeah, let's
yeah,
go
you
with
know what
that
I'm
then.
saying? That's when you start to be grown. You can even fight a grown man at 16. We've seen it happen.
If
We
they
know
are
it's possible. So that's when I feel a certain way. That's when, for me, the shift changes. Just like with sports, and I got you right now, Jay. Just like with sports, girls and boys, they have co-ed sports up until 12, because that's when after 12, that's when the male muscles start to develop a little bit more stronger. They start to be more dominant. Their voice change, and then that's when the hormone balance it changes, and that's when you can really see the athletic skill set changes in the male and female sport. That's why they can't go co-ed after 12. But go ahead, Jay. Finish out your thought. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, you're good. So, Jesus, I lost my thought that quick.
Go ahead, take your time, baby.
Damn.
So good.
Easy, did you have something to say? I might pick it back up.
I do, because I kind of want to understand, because I've, now at this point we've heard this word standard, and I guess what I'm confused by is if we're saying that the Bible is legislating our morality, and and one, understanding the actual text of the Bible, where it says that a man laying with a man as he lays with a woman is an abomination. A woman laying with a woman as she lays with a man is an abomination. It really, where that comes from is the act itself. It's not being born same sex attracted. Right. So like if we're gonna kind of demystify this a bit, let's kind of go back to where some of this is based. And I'm assuming that's what you guys are talking about, like this biblical, Christ-like moral standard where all the men are straight, all the women are straight, they all have kids, no one breaks the law, right? That's the standard that you guys are referring to.
Really, the standard
Easy
we
money.
talking about. Really, the standard that we talking about is just that like men need to go to men bathrooms and women need to go to women bathrooms. Men need to stay out of female sports. Like that. That's it. We do not want We do not want cisgendered males competing with our cisgendered female daughters. We don't want to, because if you are 6 foot trying to compete with my 5'2", even if my daughter is 5'10", because it is some tall females out there, and you hurt my daughter because you are just naturally bigger and stronger, because no matter how much, as Java was saying, you could suppress your hormones, you're still going to have all these attributes that my daughter just cannot compete with naturally. And that's when I have a real problem. So no, you cannot be in my child's bathroom. Absolutely not. When you are 6'5" and you walking in my bathroom and she's only 5'2", I feel something weird about that.
And Sharon. So Jalen, one second.
And I also,
so,
and after we'll go Brownsville,
so,
New York. We got Jabba back in the building, so I want Jabba to get in there as well. Go ahead, Brownsville.
So the add on to your point, right? Because yes, that is the topic, right? But my argument is, when does the pushing the limits end? Right? That is my argument. And that's why I brought up standards, because basically what Jalen is saying is, because people have the right to do and think and behave in whatever way they want to, right? And we should accept them, then that means that is the start. That is the initiation of eradicating all standards, right? And that is where I have a problem, as far as, because guess what? It's not gonna stop there. Let's say someone wakes up tomorrow and says, well, you know what? I was born in my birthday suit. I don't like clothes. Clothes is an abomination to me, and I want to be able to walk around in my birthday suit wherever I go. Let's say somebody starts with that thought, and then a lot of people adopt that mindset and say, you know what? You're right about that. Let's do it, right? And we got current laws on the books against public lewdness, against indecent exposure, and let's say those get removed from the standards, right? Now we got to live with that in society. So what I'm saying is, we're living in a society now to where we're comfortable with pushing the boundaries and extending the limits of standards all across the board because of free will, free identity, and what people believe. And my point is the scary thought that I have is we are running out of limits, and eventually we're going to come to a society without any sort of standard, and we're going to eat ourselves from within from chaos and confusion.
And
all this.
I want to get Jabba in there as well before. Go ahead, Jabba. Get your thought in. Go ahead, Jabba.
So this conversation has evolved past what the whole controversy. But I just want to say, to address that whole the nudist comment, there's also laws that have set up sanctions for people who do feel like they can be nude wherever they want to go. So it's like you can't. This is where it comes to this whole morality versus ethics. The law is based off of ethics because we can all deem, deletion wrong, but the law classifies it in different categories. You have manslaughter, you have actual homicide. You know what I'm saying? So so we gotta really stop conflating these arguments and just stick to what the topic is, because we're getting beyond that. To Jalen's point, y'all, like the whole outrage. This is where I bump heads with people. It's because the whole outrage. There was not 20 years ago. There was no outrage. You were in the locker rooms with people and did not know it.
Yep.
There was respect. There was boundaries respected, and this is where I do have to, advocate for the trans community. You can't put this small minority of the quote unquote trans community, because they're not even really considered trans. They're just bad people who are taking advantage of a very God, I can't think right now.
Great point of a very loose law, right? So they take
advantage of a very arbitrary law. So. Right. When you have that conversation, you can't, like, I hear you, because it does get to me as well, but at the same time, let's be fair.
Okay, so 20 years ago, that is one great point, Java. So that's where it gets a little scary for us, right? Is that so really our main concern is really not the T people. It's the one that is acting like they are. The ones that could just say, I identify. This is somebody that is. He has a perverted mind, and now he just goes around and say, I identify as this, so therefore now I could take advantage of this new identified in law that they have in place, and he could go put himself in these places where our children are the weaker vessel is, for lack of a better word. That is the real issue that we have, is exactly what you said. Those bad characters that's using this law.
Well, Sharon, let me ask this then, because to that point, I don't think that the attempt to include trans individuals into mainstream society is a driver of that or a causer of that. We've always had people who've gone after vulnerable population. We've always had people who've gone after children. So, like, to Jabba's overall point, I'm a little uncomfortable with the fact that we're, essentially using the slippery slope argument.
Yes,
with trans. We're using the slippery slope argument with trans and gay folks to be like, well, eventually they'll be loving kids and that'll be legal. And it's like, no, that's not going to happen. I know you're not, but I'm just saying, like, that's part of the slippery slope thing. It's like, no, like that's not what's happening.
So what me and Jabba is saying that it's more people, the bad characters, the bad actors, they're using this inclusion law as to be a bad actor, and now the T community is going to get the backlash of it. They're not even, these people that are doing all this bad behavior, they're not even really a part of the T community, but they have so low and perverted standards in their mind, they willing to go to any length to just go and peek in on, on the opposite.
Well, then that kind of ruins y'all's argument about trying to create a standard if these people are going to do what they want to do no matter what, because they're doing it 100%. As we speak. So it doesn't, people who want to commit crimes and be sexual deviants, they will do it at however they want to do it, however much it takes, they're going to do it.
So yes, they're going to attempt to do it. However,
I want to push back on easy money, because the problem with that is that now you have people who are part of the P community, who are trying to be added to the, ever going afternoon of the LGBT.
Yes.
And they've changed it to where now they're saying they're MAPs, and they're trying to softball it so they can be pushed in, and we have to fight against that. So it's like we're dealing with a double-edged sword here, because yes, we should not label and put people onto one category, and at the same time we have to fight those agents within that category. It's crazy.
Well,
okay, I'm with you now, Job. I'm with you.
What's gonna happen, and we can look at this 5 years from now, 10 years from now. My concern is, if we continue to push the limits and extend the boundaries, we're gonna run out of letters in the alphabet. We're gonna run out of incidents where people are saying, hey, I want to be able to do this, I want to be able to live my life this way, and you need to change the current law to fit my prerogative. I'm telling you, and I know that we're a long way from that now, but this is the beginning of that, and it's going to happen because we don't have a uniformity when it comes to standards that we want to live by as a society, and that's gonna be to our detriment. That's going to be our detriment, and it's gonna happen in the future.
Well, and I just want to jump on to Java's point, because I think Java made an excellent point there, and just kind of expound upon it a little bit. I think that no matter what, anytime that there is an advancement for a group of people, you're always going to have bad actors that try to jump on that and try to cash in on it. I mean, you think about Elizabeth Warren claiming to be Native American to get into Harvard and found out that wasn't true, right? Like something that was created to aid people who had been, like almost obliterated by this country, and here's somebody trying to take advantage of it, right? So like there's always going to be bad actors when you have things that are brought forth with good intentions. But I don't think that should stop us from recognizing the humanity in people that are different than us.
That is true, but however, we do got to create some kind of standard so we make the people that are bad actors make it a little bit more of a difficult entry level point. The problem is the entry level point is so low. All I gotta do is say in my mind, hey, listen, this is what I identify as, so I'm walking in here regardless of what you think, because that's the law. The entry to that argument is so low is the problem that we have as a
who's saying that?
Men and women. I'm pretty sure any woman that is walking in a bathroom, it has no lock on it, and a 6'5" man that is clearly, you could tell that he's just, there's something wrong with him, that he's not really a part of this the community. He is just acting like it, because we could kind of see bad actors sometimes from afar, and he walk inside there. There's no woman that's going to say they felt safe there. But as long as we say this inclusion thing is okay, me and Easy Money Jones, we can't do nothing until you start screaming and yelling. That is the problem. That's the fear that a lot of men are having when it comes to this issue. Go ahead, Jay.
So I hate to broaden the scope, but I feel like I have to make my point. Every bad actor in our society will not get caught. There's no 100% ratio in any type of criminal, any type of crime that's being done. There's no 100% accuracy rate. None of them. So they're not all going to get caught. I get this is new for a lot of people to grasp, that people want to go into bathrooms that weren't assigned to them based on society standards, but I don't think much would change, and much hasn't changed.
But Jalen, here's the issue that everybody's ignoring, right? Because you even mentioned yourself that it's a minority of people who are making these decisions, right? And what we're seeing is we're living in a society to where the minority opinion is forcing their thoughts and actions over the majority, right? And the majority opinion just has to accept these changes, right? And so if we continue down that road, my question is, where does the road end?
So I hate to broaden the scope. However, let me use Black people as an example. When it comes to legislation,
don't walk into that trap.
I have to. That's the problem. He said it, so now I have to.
Come on, sis. I got your back, but do not walk into that trap.
Y'all know where I'm going. Legislation. We have not been able to get much done. However, they seem to beat us at every turn. Why? Because they're better at lobbying than we are. They're better at raising money for their community than we are. They're better at getting a hold of their political representation than we are, because they pay attention to the issues and they care about their issues so much that they're willing to pay however much they got to pay, how much time they need to commit to these different issues that they have in their community. They will commit to it regardless because they care about their community. That's why. That's why the minority voice is so loud.
And I agree. I totally agree with that.
To her point, if you really think about it, 60 plus years ago, we were technically categorized as a mental disorder, to the point now where we can have same-sex marriage. So if you really compare that relatively to speaking to civil rights, yeah, we are. Why you gotta make me walk into that trap with you, Jayla?
Because it was the right trap, unfortunately. All right, go ahead. What do y'all got to refute?
I think the reason why the minority opinion is superseding over the majority opinion is because most people are like myself and Sharon and Easy Money Jones that's saying, okay, we need to have grace, we need to have understanding, we need to be accepting of people's parameters and comfortabilities. And so we don't have a fervor to fight against the minority opinion in the way that we should, because we're looking at it as, well, it's going to stop here. Oh, it's going to stop there. Oh, it's going to stop there. And then we're going to reach a point like now, like Sharon saying, hey, it's a big issue when you have these boys being able to play and compete athletically with the girls. They're going to have a competitive advantage. Everybody sees it. Everybody sees it as an issue. Everybody knows it's an issue. But once again, when it becomes legal, there's nothing you can do about it, because the legality necessitates them having the rights and privileges of that. And all we can do at this point is talk about it in a panel. That's where we at.
Well, not necessarily. There are states that have passed laws against trans children competing in sports of genders that they weren't born as. So there are to that point there may be like federal stuff going on, but for the most part there are states who are passing laws against that. So I mean.
And they should, and they have to, because we got to protect women's sports at all costs, because that's the only sport that is being affected. It is no Brittany Griner trying to get into the NBA because they know they can't compete. It's usually these men that cannot compete in their own gender. They come down and say, hey, I'm going to jump in here because I identify as, but now we also, Jabba had clarified that you got to be, you have to have some kind of
hormone therapy,
for 3 years at least, for you to get into it. But still, no, when they transition for those 3 years and they go into that sport, they excel crazy. They breaking records. But when they on their own cisgender sport, they not even making to the bench. That is the fucking problem. Allow these young women to be athletes. We gotta allow them to be athletes, and they are getting hurt. They cannot compete fighting. They cannot compete basketball. They definitely don't want to be in any other kind of physical sports. So that was part of it. If it's only males transition into females hopping into sports, where is the females transition into males hopping into sports?
So that was actually part of what I was saying in the chat earlier. So to that point, just because let's say a boy transitions, goes through the hormone therapy, joins the girls' league when she is 16, right? At that point, just because you may have a bigger muscle mass or a bigger body does not mean that you can actually compete with the girls in basketball. Basketball requires dexterity. It requires athleticism. It requires quickness. Just because you're bigger does not mean that you have those things.
So here's the problem with that argument. What's his name? Something McGuire that played. He had the home run champion for like 2 years in a row.
Mark McGuire.
Mark McGuire. Guess what?
He was still,
after he stopped juicing, he was still able to hit the ball, but it wasn't going out the park. So therefore, guess what happened? He wasn't making it on base as much. He wasn't getting RBIs as much. He was not the celebrity that he was. So those muscles transform. So now if you're an athlete and I could juice, that's going to make me so much better than you. And that's what these cisgender males are doing when they come down to a female sport, is that they both have the same athletic ability, but they also have the natural ability for muscle mass and all these other things. That is the real problem. It's not like it's just a nerd that never played the sport jumps into the sport. No, this is somebody that's been playing his whole life with males, and then he couldn't make it. He couldn't cut it, and now he want to take advantage and become Joanna Man. That's the issue.
Easy money. This is where I'm going to offer an example to push back. Last year or the year before, there was a USC fighter who had transitioned, and she was a former Marine, and you can clearly see the difference in her muscle mass before and after transition, but she still won based off her power compared to the cisgendered fighter who had technique far superior, but because of the trans woman's power, and mind you, she was 3 years out of her transition, she still won. So there's a lot more to it than just saying something as simple as technique, because power, it definitely comes into play, especially when it comes into contact sports.
So how many trans fighters are there in the sport? Because that's one example.
I'm not making the example to generalize. I'm just pushing back on what you said about the whole technique. There's a pushback argument there. You know what I'm saying? Because you're right. And in totality, there's not enough trans athletes to really make that generalization for all sports. But to say there are instances where you have to look and say, when someone has this far superior technique and they only lose because the only difference between her and her opponent is power, that is something you have to take into consideration.
The same like the Olympic medalist that was doing the powerlifting. The only thing that he changed was that he went to the female Olympics and he broke every record. It's a problem. How you break every record? You couldn't even crack the top 100 when you was a male. It's a problem.
Who was that?
I forgot I don't remember the name, but bro, it's another one that happened in college. He transitioned into a swimmer and he broke like 7 records the first year.
Leah Thomas is the swimmer where she's currently trying to fight the Olympics to unban trans competing in women's swimming division. And then the Olympian, the weightlifter, is Lauren Hubbard.
Right, and because Haitian Forever summed it up beautifully, right? Just because you change your sex or gender, it doesn't change the physical genetics. No matter how much you try to suppress it, it doesn't matter how much you try to suppress it. You're still going to just have more muscle mass. You're going to have more physicality. You're going to be able to take more punishment. You're going to have, it is what it is. You're just going to be naturally heavier. It's just all these attributes that they cannot compete naturally. It's just like Ka Sanaa playing against those little kids to prove that he could play basketball when he did that shit with Shannon Sharp.
But if you're constantly injecting estrogen into your male body,
yeah,
and we know that estrogen has a counter effect on the man's body to where the muscles get smaller, the muscle mass gets smaller. So like if the muscle mass is smaller, how do you still have the same strength from pre-transition?
So here's the problem. This is something that Jabba brought up earlier as well, is that even when you suppress everything, right, and you come down to you are still at the top echelon of all the females, and you suppressed everything. That's the issue. So when you suppress, you take all the hormones and the estrogen and all that, you at the top level. You have Venus, Serena, level, when you suppress everything, you had top level of testosterone coming into the game.
So, and just really quick on the Laurel Hubbard person, that person actually set records before transitioning in the man side too. So this person was a beast no matter what gender they were.
Okay. And
so just to kind of clarify that.
That was Sharon's point. I was just giving you the name of the person.
Easy Money.
No, I appreciate that.
I can't prove it right now, but he's telling
stories. What I was going to say, Easy Money, what I was going to say is that, okay, we can speak because you looked up Laura Hubbard. That's the point. Look at the pre and post transition. Can you really see the difference between the body size, the mass, the power?
Let me find the picture. I'm sitting here reading this article. Let me find the picture right fast.
Okay, go ahead and find a picture, see if you see any real difference besides the hair and some goddamn lipstick. They say you put a lipstick on a pig, it's still a goddamn pig.
Oh, she's still big. She's a bigger woman, yeah.
And then compare her to the other women that she was competing against.
Right. That's what makes it
I have to take a look.
That's the point.
But even with that point, though, to your point, like the person was breaking records prior to transition, so it would make sense that they would transition and still break records.
Exactly. But the different categories, they're different categories now because Laurel can't go back and break those same records pre-transition in the men's category.
At this point, no, you're right. And that's kind of what I was speaking to.
Right. So that's the point. If you probably were a phenom in the men's category, but then you transition and you're still a phenom. That does speak to the athleticism. I'm not going to knock that. As a former athlete myself, no, I'm not going to knock that.
What you play, Java?
Huh?
What you play?
Football.
I figured. I knew you was a football player.
And I ran track when I was young, and I ran track.
You didn't run nowhere, Java. Where the hell you used to run to?
I was a skinny little guy. Yes, I was. That had been under the age of 13, but it was definitely there. And so that's really the point is that we have to take these things in consideration. I'm not expecting Lauren to go back into the men's division and still still be able to compete at that level. Absolutely not.
No.
But I do recognize that she does have a biological advantage compared respectively to biological women.
I mean, we could just easy debunk it by easily saying that I believe it was the high school soccer team beat the women's USA team. They had to try to do. They did their best to just get rid of all the footage of it. These are 14-year-old young men. They was like 14 to 16. They beat the U.S. women's soccer team because they were just purely faster.
Work is calling me, y'all. I gotta go.
Thank you, Jabba. I appreciate you. You're always welcome. Thank you so much for giving me some great insight. You know what I'm saying? So, like, it was clearly because they were just faster and they just couldn't compete with that speed.
Yeah, I'd have to see that because that's the first I heard of it.
Oh, yeah. So it actually happened and they erased all of the footage. You're hard pressed to find. You got to go find a camera version of somebody using it on a cell phone because they thought it was going to end a different way. But no. Those little 6-year-old boys was flying, pew, 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 too goddamn fast, flying up and down the court. Thank you, Jalen. I appreciate you. Thank you. So I
just wanted to come up and my bad. I just wanted to come up and just kind of push back just a little bit because much like you guys, 10, 12 years ago, like when I first got introduced to the concept of trans, I was like, what is this? Like, it's anchor man, not anchor person. Like, so like I'm there, right? But like over time, and I do have a cousin who identifies as a trans pan person, and they use the pronoun they, but they are femme presenting. Gotcha. And so when they broke it down, I'm like, what? And I had to be honest. I said, what the hell does any of this mean? Like, I am.
It's like it's two of you.
Yeah, I was all kind of confused. I'm like, what the hell is happening here? And as they broke it down to me, I'm like, okay, so pan means that you're attracted to anyone regardless of what they are, regardless of how God created them or how they made themselves to be.
Right.
So pan just means you love everybody, no discrimination. Okay, cool. You're trans because you're not quite sure if you are a man or a woman, so you kind of exist in this space where you identify as neither. But even then, there's I thought there was another term for that, but whatever.
Right.
And so like just kind of getting that exposure to it, and like I said, with the person that I worked with for a while, and I probably broke all type of laws and rules, so I'm glad I never got reported.
Damn.
But I sat him down and I said, man, what is this? Tell me what does this mean? Like, what do you want me to call you? Like, how do I make you feel comfortable? Like, what is this? And they broke it down, and they told me their story, how they started, where they're how they're transitioning, their journey, and when they realized it. And I'm like, yo, that's wild. And like I'm just taking it in. And so like
and I also think Easy Money Jones, we do gotta open up that line of communication just so we can have this verbal discourse and have our difference of agreements and allow it to be respectable and have our respectable disagreements, because that's the hard part about it. We don't get a chance to have a conversation with anybody that's about that and have the difference, because even when you get into inside their community, you see they don't agree on every goddamn thing, right? It's also a political game with them. Somebody's going to be on our sides where they're like, listen, I'm that, and I still don't subscribe to what that person is saying. It's not like just because they are a part of the alphabet that they agree with everybody that's in that letter.
No, 100%. Just like all black folks don't agree. So like I just appreciate you for being open to have the conversation, and starting from a place of, hey, what the hell is this? And like being able to bring folks up that agree, being able to bring folks up that provided some pushback, and just being able to have the whole convo, even though I know that there were some people mad in the chat about some Sodom and Gomorrah and all of that. But I'm like, we've got to have these conversations in an effort to kind of grow. Yes. And that's why I appreciate your platform so much, because you don't silence people. You let us have a conversation. Even if you personally disagree, you'll let me come up here and spew, and then bring on people that disagree and let them beat my ass. So like I'm down for it.
I appreciate you, Easy Buddy Jones. And with that, we are going to be up out of here, I believe. I think so.
I want to say this. This because I know I probably came off a little radical today to some people. Okay,
you good.
So I want to say this. I love everybody.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I believe everybody has a right to live their life the way they deem to live their life, right? I just disagree with certain lifestyles. That's totally different. I can love you, but still disagree with the life that you live, but still love and support you the same. So that's where I'm at with it. I think we are going into a slippery slope situation, and we're extending the limits and boundaries too far. And we need to get it under control before we lose control in the situation and become a society without standards. And that is my fear and the emphasis that I wanted to extend to the conversation. But peace and love to everybody.
Yeah, it was a great productive build. I believe so. Wonder said we got to it productively. I appreciate that. We still have 49 people watching. That's what's up. Hanging out with this new camera angle, because I know for some people it's a very difficult situation for them. But we're gonna try to switch it up every now and then. We got 47 watching. Make sure 47 y'all hit $1 Cash App, tip your goddamn host, no matter which side of the screen that you are on, whichever side that you're watching. Make sure you tipping your host. Cash App, Super Chat, PayPal, Super Sticker. $1 is all we asking for. We're not asking to break anybody's bank. We just want good content and good conversations to be supported. That's the only way we know you want that content. So since you've been here for the last few minutes, show your love and support. And we'll see you later, maybe today. I don't know. If something sparks my brain, I'll just hop on and we have the conversation again. Simple as that. I appreciate y'all. Yeah. But hey, they better stay out my goddamn baby girl sports. I'd rather you respect me than love me. I feel you on that, Romello. That is interesting point of view, and some people don't understand that point of view as well. But I understand that 100%. I thank you. Oh, I ain't gonna lie though. This camera made me look good. Look at so she's spinning. SBG, we flying high. We rebel against remedial rhetoric. I'll see y'all later.